the flyer indicated, we're going to learn about how to deal with stress. What exactly do we mean by stress? How do you understand stress? How do you protect yourself, your health mentally? What do you do? What are some of the things that we can do to safeguard our own mental health and that of others also? That is what our experts will be helping us with today. I am so happy you've joined us, and I know this is usually not our number, so I am urging you, kindly reach out to your contacts, your networks, whoever you send the flyer to. Tell them that it's time, so they should kindly join. And as usual, we would share a poll where you get to give us info. Tell us something, share with us what you think, what you know. And then in the end, it helps us to improve on our things. As advertised, we'll be having our two seasoned experts or two seasoned psychologists in the person of, or in the persons of Mrs. Ethel Obeng Trevor and also Dr. Christine Mabel Pierre. I nearly called my boss. So I'm not going to make that mistake. So it's actually Dr. Christine Mabel Pierre and Mrs. Ethel Obeng Trebe. These are our two seasoned psychologists who are going to be helping us today. Before I share their bio with you, I would please request that we fill in the short poll for just some few minutes. We'll take about 2 minutes maximum. So we get to, thank you. No, Goddy, the other one, please. Yes, please. Thank you. So, yes, in 2 minutes, please help us know what you know. Help us know what what you understand by mental health, the stress and all these things. So I would be keeping quiet. So it gives you the time to fill it out for us. Thank you for participating. For those who are using the phones, I hear the three dots up there. Please use that. So as the poll is ongoing, let me just share a few housekeeping rules or things for us to keep in mind. Yes, it's being aired. We are live on our YouTube channel, that is Mission Pediatrics. Or no, Parents Roundtable. So on YouTube, it's the Parents Roundtable. In case you send the link to someone and it's full, do encourage them to use that channel on YouTube, Parents Roundtable, to join in the session. And if we have any comments, any concerns, whatsoever, please, you have the right to share it with us. You can type in the chat box as our presenters will be taking the lead. We would wait till they are done. Then we can go on to read your comments, your concerns, and anything that you may have for us. You can write or share all your thoughts with us through our chat box. Then when they are done presenting, that is both Ethel and Dr. Kiki finishes, then we would go on. If you would want to put up your hand to share something, please, you have the right to do so. Okay, so let me start with Mrs. Ethel Obeng-Trevor. So she is a clinical psychologist, as earlier mentioned, and she has a decade of experience in providing therapeutic support to children, couples, and then individuals across the world from diverse cultural backgrounds and contexts. She's trained in both the United Kingdom and in Ghana. And with her, she's enriched with the multicultural perspectives to help her in her practice and also help her to be able to support all range of people who have psychological needs. She is also the executive director of Fafanto Psych organization, and Fafanto collaborates with several other dedicated professionals also who specialize in varying psychological assessments, diagnosis, and interventions too. Fafanto is geared towards helping promote mental health, and they also have the objective of providing us with quality care and innovative solutions that would help with complex psychological issues. So Mrs. Obeng-Trevor is a consultant for varying places, and that is why we Admission Pediatrics can also boast of her being a part of us, and also for the Lancaster University. So that is for Mrs. Obeng-Trevor. So you see, when I say that we are proud of the psychologists that we have, because we know their worth. Aside Mrs. Obeng-Trevor, our next one would be Dr. Christine. So Dr. Christine Mabel Pierre is also a licensed clinical psychologist and also an inclusive education and well-being consultant. She is a Harvard-trained licensed clinical psychologist with over 15 years of global experience in school-based mental health, and currently she is the head of psychological services at Mission Pediatrics, where she's specialized in educational psychological assessments for students who have needs. So then when your ward needs access arrangements for any of the international exams, be it the Cambridge one, the IB, or any other, Dr. Pierre is geared with her team to be able to help have your reports and things ready. Aside that, she also consults, she does workshops and seminars, and that's how come we have her here with her team, a part of her team. And they are here to help us understand about stress and mental health, just as she's also been doing for the other schools in which she's been sharing these experiences at. Sorry. She's aimed at helping bring hope and healing to families by providing them with tried and tested evidence-based therapy. Among the numerous things she's done, she's also been interviewed by the BBC about her research that she conducted on successful parenting strategies across cultures. And in her spare time, she likes to create digital art. So yes, you see the number of or the amount of experience that they have that they are bringing to the fore. For those who are unable to or who haven't filled in our poll that is still running, we encourage you to do that in the next minutes, as it would be closing in the next minutes. And Mrs. Obeng-Trevor is going to start off with us. And as I always call her, Ethel, please, your audience awaits you.
All right. Thank you so much, and good evening to everyone. So I'm just going to turn on my video, and then we'll share my screen so we can all see or access the slides. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ethel. It feels like there's an echo.
Please, can you hear me?
Aha, thank you.
Okay. All right, good evening to everyone. So I'm going to share my screen and then also just so we can access the slides or see the slides together. Right. Good evening to everyone. And we're going to start off by maybe asking a few questions. I'm going to put this in slide mode and kindly confirm that you can at least see the first slide.
Yes, please. It's visible.
Wonderful. Okay. So today we're talking about understanding stress and protecting your mental health. I'm sure we would all agree that when it comes to stress, we can't avoid it for the most part. And so it's important for us to know what it is, be able to identify our stresses, and then to another aspect, which is very important, get to manage these stresses. Now, stress, when it's left unmanaged, definitely can contribute to mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression, and then also other physical health conditions as well. So this evening, we'll say that a conversation is very important because we're looking at how we can understand what it does to our bodies and then also to our minds. And then also by going through this, we'll be able to empower each other to take better care of ourselves and then also the people that we support. Now, I'm sure maybe on this call we can have parents with maybe neurodiverse or neurotypical children. We have employers, employees, teachers, and so on and so forth, including other professionals, medical doctors, psychologists, counselors, and so on. So at this point, I think that I'll just ask a few questions and we'll start with first and foremost, I want to find out from you. So if you could kindly key in maybe your stress level in the chat box. 10 is I am stressed. 1 is I'm pretty cool. I'm doing okay. Everything is fine. I've got everything covered. I can do it. I'm okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is like you feeling like really stressed, and then 1 is you feeling okay, you can handle or manage it, you're fine. Kindly key that in the chat box. Let's see how we're doing. Means you have to listen to yourself, listen to your body, and then also probably to your mind. And then let's give a rating. So that's the first aspect of the task. Then the second is, now that you know where you are at in terms of your stress level, we're checking your stress level. The second is, can you identify what your stressor is? I'll be happy for some of you to share what your stressors are. Can you? If you can, please put that in. If you can't, please put that in as well. Just say, I don't know. I can't tell what my stresses are currently. Then the third question is, what strategies have worked for you in managing your stress? These are the 3 questions. The first is, key in your stress level in the chat box. The second is, what is that stressor? Identify it. Then the third is, what strategies have you used in managing your stress? So maybe Miss Ida would probably read a few, so maybe just 2 minutes, and then we'll get into all the nitty-gritties when it comes to stress.
Okay, so let me see the comments that we have here so far. I'm going to start with Selassie says work. David says studies. Faisal says, maybe school. Matilda says work and parenting. Angela says, don't know. Nidra says work plus neurodiverse parenting.
Hmm.
Ejuro says parenting, patience. Dolores says, don't know really. Delajam says, not sure. Dolores says, prayer. And Selassie says, setting boundaries and learning to say no. Davis also says, I'm doing my best, but sometimes feeling overwhelmed. Matilda says, prayers. Angela says, prayer and church. Annabelle says, work and kids. Ifia says, work and parenting. Lois says, work, home, life balance. Gloria says, work. Mabel, life in general. That's all we have so far.
Thank you so much. So I think one of the things that stands out definitely is work and parenting, and then the school as
Yes.
well. I'm surprised nobody talked about finances today. Does it mean that we're comfortable? We're like, okay, where we are. I mean, that's very interesting. But thank you so much for the feedback. I think this is like very important. And then we had a neurodiverse parent as well. I can
Mm-hmm.
imagine how we're balancing. Somebody talked about patience,
Mm-hmm.
the prayers. So you can see there are different or varied responses because we also have different stresses for different folks.
Mm-hmm.
And in all of this as well, another interesting aspect is we're not the same. And so everybody would have something that works for them. But it's important to know or identify first what your stressor is before we can even look at its management. So we'll start off first with generally the conversation about health. What is it? Because before we can even narrow in on stress, we need to understand what our health involves. Now, we're probably going to look at WHO and their definition that it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So there's a mental health aspect inside health. Then there's a physical component, which is what everybody is usually familiar with. I'm not doing well. I have diabetes. I'm struggling with maybe some headache, having some tummy cramps, whatever the health conditions, that would probably just walk into a facility and get support for. And then there's a third aspect or component, which is social well-being as well. So it's not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So it means that when we're talking about health, there are three important components you have to look at. And then we come down to the mental health as well. That is your state of well-being, where you as an individual, you realize your own abilities. You are able to cope with the normal stresses. So that's like the main thing, normal stresses of life. And you can work productively and you're able to make a contribution to your community or to your environment. So that tells us then that when it comes to mental health, it's more than the absence of a mental disorder. Most of the time when we mention mental health, I think majority quickly then think about mental illness, but they are two different things. So your mental health, we all do have one. Just as we have a physical health, we do have a mental health. But just as the physical health can also be impacted and an individual can develop an illness, that is a physical illness, we can also have a mental illness. So please let's note that difference. And when we talk about mental health, we're looking at a range of socioeconomic, biological, and environmental factors. So when we're looking at WHO and their definition, we're looking at three things: physical, mental, and social well-being. And then we can also say that when it comes to mental health, it's an important aspect of health. And there's certainly no health without mental health. We have talked about mental illness. Just as we can have a physical illness, we can also have a mental illness. We can all be impacted in some ways. And for whatever the situation might be, we can develop a mental illness. And so we move on then to this conversation. What is stress? Now, stress means that there is some pressure, there is a strain, or there's a demand that is occurring. So it's a state of mental or emotional strain, and it's your body's response to that demand or to that challenge. So what happens when we are stressed is that there's an activation of what we call the flight or the fight response. And when that happens, there's a release of a number of hormones, including cortisol or adrenaline. And these help you to respond to threats. So it means that all of us have that inbuilt in all of us. And so whenever there's that demand or that pressure or that strain, something happens within the individual so that we can actually go back into a certain state because we need to deal with it and then move on. But we have different types of stress. And it's very important for us to actually understand that because we can't do with stress or we can't do away with stress, we need to know what to do in the situation. So the first type is what we call the acute stress. So just like the name, this is short term. And usually it's a response to an immediate challenge. So let's say that you have a deadline, you have a meeting, you have to meet that deadline. There's definitely some pressure that you would feel. Let's say you're getting ready for an exam. There's some demand or some pressure on you as an individual to prepare for. Maybe it's even a presentation like this one. Maybe myself and Dr. KK might probably have felt a little bit of stress because we need to prepare for the audience. And so this is very normal and it's part of all of us in terms of, our daily experiences. Other very common examples would be maybe getting stuck in traffic. This one is normal for a lot of us. Getting ready, maybe we have to, get to work on time. We have a particular schedule. We feel like we're behind. We have to drop the kids off. Usually there's some pressure on all of us and we get stuck in traffic. We didn't plan. We didn't think that today of all days there'll be traffic. Maybe there's something happening on the motorway. So that gives you a certain feeling because you know you're going to be late for something. Then maybe there's some negative feedback. Let's say that you have a child, maybe they are neurodiverse, and then you get a call from the school. It's like, oh, it's about your daughter. Suddenly there's a certain feeling, oh my God, what's going on? Is everything okay? They are telling you everything is okay, but they want you to come immediately. I'm sure definitely you'll be wondering and thinking, what's going on? What are they not telling me? So it creates some stress on the individual. Then another common one will be when you get to lose your keys, you're wondering, did I lock it in the car? Because once it's in there and it's locked and you don't have a spare, you're in trouble. So there's that as well. Maybe even misplacing your wallet or your phone. You can't find it. You've been calling. Did I lose it? Did I leave it where I was? I mean, I don't know where it is. I'm calling, nobody's picking up, or maybe it's even gone silent. So it gives you some kind of stress. And these are very common experiences we all get to have. Now, this type is what we call acute stress. And then from there, we have what we call the chronic stress. Now, that one is long term and it results from ongoing. So it does not stop. So the acute, like I said, you realize that these come in short bursts. I got a call, I went to the school, we've had a conversation, that feeling is gone. Then maybe I lost my keys, eventually I found them. So that pressure, that strain, that demand is gone. But with this one, it is long term, it's ongoing. So it seems as if it's unresolved. Now, a very common one, I'm sure you'd all agree with me, would have to do with maybe having an unhealthy or high conflict resolution. Maybe you have a relationship with your partner. So you're living in a tense environment. Every day there's noise, we're fighting, we're arguing, back and forth at home. You always go back home to the same thing, complaining. And a common word that is used is nagging. We use that a lot. And this person is nagging and talking so much. So that one is chronic. And the danger with the chronic is sometimes we get so used to it, we probably think that it's not impacting us in any way. So that's why it's very dangerous. Now, another can be maybe caring for a loved one. Let's say that you're providing support, maybe because of a long-term illness or maybe a disability or even a special need without getting enough help. So it's every day for a long time. Or you're living in an unsafe or unstable condition. So there's some constant fear in that environment, or maybe some comfort or discomfort due to maybe neighborhood violence, and so on and so forth. Maybe another one we can look at would be, let's say you're in a demanding job, or it's also an unstable job. So there's constant pressure because you're not sure whether or not this is going to end. We're going to get the position, or we're even going to maybe be confirmed. So there's always that pressure on you as an individual. Or maybe it's a high pressured environment, constantly demanding of you. Maybe those in the medical practice can say. So there's little time for anything else, constantly on the go, because there's always something that is required of you. Now, these ones are examples of what we call the chronic stress. But stress in itself is not a bad thing. I think that unfortunately, we've associated stress with something negative. So anytime, and because we use, stress in a negative sense, anytime the word is used, all we think about is how negative it is. But there's good stress, which is called eustress. And then there is the negative stress, which we call distress. So the eustress is the positive stress that can push you to perform or even serves as motivation. So using some of the examples I used during the acute stress, let's say you're getting ready for a presentation, you want it to go well. There's some pressure, and that is what makes you to prepare. So it's a good thing in itself because it gets you ready for that test or that exam or maybe that presentation. Another could be maybe starting a new job or maybe learning a new skill you are passionate about. It could be even getting a promotion. So it means that it pushes you to keep on growing. So there's some motivation that comes with it. And that is what we call eustress. So please let's note that eustress, not all stress is bad or negative stress. Then another can be maybe even traveling to a new place for the first time, or even hosting a social gathering, or even speaking at a friend's celebration. But I'd want us to then identify some of these stresses. What are the things that bring about the stress? I noticed from our feedback, some said, I don't know. Now, if we're not able to identify, then the question is, how then are we able to even look at interventions or management? If we're to look at maybe the example of a couple who are constantly fighting or constantly arguing, a very crippling environment, some people get so used to it to the point where they don't even consider that as stress. And if you're talking about all their problems, they even forget that they are even in an unhealthy relationship or maybe environment. I think that it's a very dangerous one. So some common things or common stresses or common things that would actually impact us in terms of our stress can be financial instability. So when we have constantly, so we look at the image of a gentleman whose pocket is empty and living from hand to mouth, we don't know where the next will come from, the next support or help will come from. We're looking at work and stress from work. Sometimes you even take that work home because of the deadlines, there's pressure. So constantly, there's always something to do. There's no time for that break that we need. And we talked earlier on about maybe an incurable disease or illness. That can be a stressor. Somebody who's recently had a stroke and cannot tell whether or not they're even going to get back to being able to function, maybe even at the workplace, because that is what means or gives them purpose, in life. These are some of the very common reasons. I recall somebody mentioned school. Yes, academic requirements. Sometimes our teachers and our lecturers can make life a living hell. I agree. They can really stress us out. And sometimes I think they enjoy giving us or creating that stress, sometimes unnecessary. And so that as well can also be another. And there's social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you find yourself. Sometimes you look at what some people are doing, you're comparing them. This one is being younger than me, and the kind of things they've acquired, the cars they are driving, age, this life. And then we get to remember how unfair life is and why our parents didn't do or maybe make those same investments for us. And it gets you to think a lot. Some of your friends, you feel like they're doing a lot of amazing things and you feel stuck. You can't even tell, about the stability when it comes to your work. All of these are very common reasons why people would feel some level of stress. So other ones are here, a traumatic event, the death of a loved one, the financial difficulties, work-related stress. Now, if you're getting married, trust me, it can be stressful, but we can say it's acute and it might be a positive one, but the divorce, that one is not a very pleasant one. I mean, for the most part, losing one's job or maybe some instability when it comes to my job is another. Then some mental health challenges can also be a life stressor. Chronic illness or injury, caring for a loved one who is unwell, moving or buying a new home. All of these are very common life stresses as well. Now, what does it do? I think it's very important we look at this part. So we're going to look at the impact, but we're also going to look at the categories of the stress symptoms. So we can see physical symptoms, we have emotional symptoms, then we have the cognitive symptoms, and we have the behavioral symptoms. Now, stress, mind you, affects the entire person. So that means the body, the mind, and then also the behavior. And the categories, when we're looking at the physical symptoms, we should be looking at things like headaches. So that's what the body is speaking to you. It's migraines, fatigue, low energy. It's either we're experiencing insomnia or oversleeping. So too little of sleep or oversleeping. There's some upset tummy, nausea, digestive issues. Yes, all of these are part of the physical symptoms an individual would experience as part of stress. And then over time, a weakened immune system as well. And then we have changes in appetite. So we can have an individual eating too much or too little. Then there's an emotional aspect as well. So here we have symptoms such as anxiety, irritability, mood swings. The least thing we're, screaming and shouting. We're feeling very overwhelmed. The least thing, there's some feelings of sadness or low mood. Then there's some restlessness or agitation the individual would feel. Then feelings of withdrawal, so they're not keeping to themselves, and then also maybe expressing feeling lonely or some loneliness as well. Then some of the activities that that individual used to enjoy before, there's some decreased enjoyment or probably a complete withdrawal from those activities. Then there's a cognitive aspect or cognitive symptoms. We could be looking at forgetfulness, maybe making poor decisions, or maybe poor judgment, then constantly thinking negatively about things, even when somebody probably forgot to greet you, they don't like you. Maybe it's about your tribe. When it's not even like that at all, stress can do that. Sometimes even we can read messages and the tone would change simply because of the fact that we are stressed. And so because, there's the person is not there to actually say it as is, even sometimes when the person says, our mind will quickly go into the negative space. Oh, are you saying that is because of this? That's why maybe you're saying that I'm not doing well. Maybe your boss probably gave some constructive feedback, but you've taken it negatively as a result. And that's because you might actually be stressed. And so you're interpreting your environment in a different way. Then we have even trouble or difficulty organizing our thoughts. So we're not also able to give our best when it comes to work. So these are some of the cognitive symptoms that one can experience. And then there's the behavioral aspect. So this is the one that we can say might be either overt or covert, but these are behaviors. So that could include increased absenteeism. So this is where we are not able to show when it comes to work. We're not showing up for the things we're supposed to. It could also be increased presenteeism. So this is where the individual is present, but they are not effective when it comes to their work or when it comes to whatever activity or event they should be engaging in. So that leads eventually to reduced productivity. So it impacts the employer, it impacts the work, and it impacts the employee too. Then we have those who are constantly procrastinating. Oh, I'll do it another time. Oh, I have time. We'll do it later. So they're avoiding responsibilities as well. Then sometimes some individuals tend to start coping by using alcohol. It could be caffeine, it could be drugs, or even legal or illegal substances. Some even do or engage in nail biting and then fidgeting as well. And then some engage in maybe overeating, undereating, snapping at others, and so on. So these are some of the symptoms that you would find in the individual. And like I mentioned earlier, stress impacts everything or the totality of the human being. So an impact of chronic stress would mean some increased risk of anxiety and then even depression. It leads to low self-esteem or a lack of motivation. We can also say there's some burnout that would be experienced by the individual. Then because it goes beyond that to the physical aspects as well, so the physical health, high blood pressure, parenting is stressful. Parenting is a blessing, I'm sure we would all agree, but it can be really stressful. So over time, we have high blood pressure, some heart disease, or even the risk of a stroke being developed. Then we have stomach ulcers, even acid reflux, chronic fatigue, weight loss, weight gain, because we're eating too much or too little. These are some of the physical health impacts that can also occur. And then we have the cognitive impact. So that could be a decline in one's memory and focus, the reduced creativity, and then also productivity, learning difficulties, especially in children. Yes. So whilst we are talking or having a conversation about stress, please, children also get stressed and they also experience their own symptoms as well. So please, let's also take note of that. And then when it comes to the social lifestyle or impact, it impacts relationships. So it can be home, the relation we have with our children, or even the workplace. Then when it comes to the social withdrawal and isolation, definitely it impacts the relationships. Then the risk of the substance use, which was talked about earlier. So that means that when it comes to stress, it affects the entire you. So here we look at the last but one slide that looks at stress, the brain, and then you as an individual. So because stress can affect the brain in very powerful ways, over time, it leads to high levels of the stress hormones, especially cortisol. Now, what it does is that it shrinks certain areas in the brain, like the hippocampus, which is very important when it comes to one's memory and then also for learning. Then it can also lead to some increased activity in the amygdala, which is your fear center. So that is why we are very reactive at this point and then also very anxious. Then when it comes to the prefrontal cortex, that helps with focus, decision making, and regulating our emotions. It also tends to disrupt or impact its function. And so with that one, it means that we're making a lot of errors. We're not making the best of decisions. And then when it comes to our emotions, there are difficulties managing our emotions. Now, these then lay the groundwork for mental health conditions like anxiety and depression. So stress, anxiety, and depression, I can say, are like cousins. Anxiety is your response to perceived future threats. And so when somebody or an individual is under long-term or chronic stress, it means that their nervous system stays activated. Ideally, you're supposed to be active for a period and then shut down. So we get back into a place or a space of equilibrium. But when it happens over a long period, it stays active. At a point, I think one of the very common things we used to say was, is it business mode activated, isn't it? We used to say work mode activated. They're very common things. It means it's for a period. So I'm assuming that if there's work mode activated, we are focusing and getting work done. When we are done, maybe sleep mode, maybe it's relaxation or chilling mode activated. But when we are under long-term or chronic stress, the nervous system stays activated, which leads to the worry and the fears, the restlessness, difficulty even relaxing or getting good sleep. So sleep problems even start. And then we have these racing thoughts, we're overthinking things. And that can lead to panic attacks, for instance, or even generalized anxiety disorder. Then over time, it can also lead to depression in a number of ways. So that's the part that has to do with our mood regulating chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. So what it does is that it lowers these levels of very important mood regulating hormones. And these can then lead to feelings of hopelessness, exhaustion. So that's where the withdrawal comes in as well from the activities we used to enjoy. So we used to like gardening, maybe go hiking, probably listen to some music. All we want to do is just stay in the room, close all the curtains. We don't want to do anything. We want to even spend time with our children or spend time with our loved ones. And so people living with stress often report feeling emotionally numb. They'll tell you, I don't feel anything. And so sometimes this is where some individuals will engage in some self-harming because they want to feel something. So they're unmotivated, they feel overwhelmed, and these are some signs of depressive episodes. So stress does not just affect our mental health. it takes a serious toll on the body. And that is where we have the physical conditions like the high blood pressure, the increased risk of heart diseases. Then it weakens your immune system, making you more likely to get sick. Then your digestive issues or some digestive issues can also develop as well. And to round it up, we'll say that there's also, poor sleep as well. So the body, we must remember, wasn't designed to stay in stress mode. So once we activate at a point, we should deactivate. When it does stay activated, it breaks down slowly and then surely. So I think at this point, I would end the presentation and then I'd hand over to Dr. Christine Mabel-Pierre. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ethel. That was so informative. I hope everyone is really listening. So Ethel has taken us through the first part. I'm going to take us through the second part, which is how then do we manage the stress? Like she said, we are all experiencing the stress at different levels, but what exactly can we do to take charge and take control of it? So we're going to go through stress management strategies. I've broken it up into two parts. There's the long-term coping strategies. There are things where it takes deep reflection. You have to sit down and say, okay, I have to reanalyze my life. And then there's the short-term coping strategies where it's in the moment, just few things that you can do to try and recalibrate and get yourself to calm down. Okay, so let's start with the long-term coping strategies. So one of the big things when you're facing stress is value-based living. You have to take a good look at your life and align your life with your core values. And when we say values, we're talking about what is important to you. Like what is really the reason for which you are working, the reason for which you are living, the reason for which you're doing. Because life will throw so many things at you. And we realize it gradually as we're becoming adults, don't we? That there's so much to do. The to-do list never ends. So life will throw it at you, and it's up to you to say, okay, this one important, this one not so important, this one, Charlie, back burner. And to do that, you have to know what your values are. Values are the things that at the very core give you direction. For some people, it's achievement. It's, I want to make a difference. I want to have an impact. I want to change something before I leave this world. For some people, it's family. They're like, look, after all is said and done, it comes down to family, spending time with my family, having love for them. It's different for everybody. There's no right or wrong. So as you're listening to me, if you're feeling stressed, think through, does your stress align with your values? If it doesn't, then we're looking at ways in which to push it to the back burner. Can you move it to somebody else? Can you decide that this is something I'm no longer dealing with? Can you have a conversation with someone? If it is in line with your values, then like Ethel said, this is eustress. This is good stress. It doesn't feel nice, but at least you know that this is worthwhile. So values-based living is one thing that you have to look at. The other one is time management and goal setting. We've heard so much about time management. And the thing with time management is that even if you've done it before, you have to go back and look again because you are only one person. Oftentimes when the to-dos come, they seem small. A coworker will call you, oh, can you do this project for me? Can you do this thing for me? And in the minute, it's like, oh, yeah, that seems doable. But the reality of it, it expands, it becomes so much more. And so realizing that when you say yes to something, you're committing a certain amount of time. Know exactly how much that time is. Is this going to be 1 hour's worth of work? Is this going to be 2 hours every day? What exactly does it mean? Manage your time, structure it. For some of us, we are scatterbrained. We have to put everything down on a calendar. We have to see how far. A lot of us forget to structure and schedule the rest time, the family time, the social support time. We seem to prioritize only the work and the school. And we find that we can't function when it's all work and all school. We're made to rest. So when you're scheduling your time and your goals, put in time for rest, put in time for re-energizing and refilling yourself. The third one, as I started to mention, is social support and connection. Again, this is something that starts to fall by the wayside, especially when we become parents or just as we are becoming adults. We don't maintain our social support systems as much. Some of us do. Some of us do very well with it. And kudos to all of you that do. But many of us, it starts with the first baby, right? It's like round the clock, you're taking care of the child. And then after a while, you're going back to work or you're helping your partner if you're the man. And then it's all about the children. There will come a time when those children will leave the home, and we need to have a support system after that. Even while they are in the home, we are complex human beings. You're not just a mother or just a father. You're not even just a brother or a sister. You're a friend. You're the funny guy. You're a confidant to someone. All those aspects of our personalities need to continue to live. So maintain strong, supportive relationships. It doesn't have to mean going to a party. It could be calling a friend that you haven't spoken to in a long time, making sure every 3 months you touch base to see how they are. The research shows that social support systems are protective factors for stress. And when we have that, the stronger they are, the better able we are to deal with stress. Another long-term coping strategy is understanding your very own unique brand of stress. So Ethel talked about recognizing, right? Being able to say, oh, it's because of work I'm stressed. And then also what the stress looks like. We are all different. Some people won't even know they're stressed. They'll say, oh, my stomach is hurting. I have an ulcer. I have a headache. I think I have malaria. And it never occurs to them that, my friend, you are stressed. For other people, they're very sensitive to it. And they know, oh, as soon as it hits, as soon as the trigger hits, they feel it and they feel uncomfortable and they know that, I'm not okay. Stress affects each and every one of us differently. If you understand your stress, one, you know when it's coming, and then you have the power and the control to make the behavioral change. So I'll give you an example. For some people, they get overstimulated, right? You get home after work, the children are shouting, the noise is too much. Before you realize that you are shouting at the children, you're feeling basa, what's all this? I'm stressed. But if you realize that the noise, the multiple noise, this person is talking, the TV is on, somebody else is asking for your help, that's what's triggering you. And that's what makes you overstimulated. Once you know that, one at a time. I can't listen to all of you talking. Turn the TV off. Nobody's watching. There's too much noise. I need quiet. So if you can understand what your triggers are, how it presents in your body, you can start to control it. Engaging in meaningful activities. So life, like I said before, is not just work, right? God made us to be human beings and to experience life abundantly. Now, pursuing hobbies. Sometimes in our parts of the world, we think hobbies are, frivolous. So playing tennis or gardening or even volunteer work. Now, these things are really, really core to feeling stable, feeling balanced. So as you're listening to me, think through, what are your meaningful activities? And I don't mean your work. Some of you love your work and it's purposeful and you're all about it. That's good. But you also need other recreational, creative things that you do that make you feel whole and fulfilled. Some people love plants. Maybe gardening could be your thing. Some people just love to read a good book and escape into another world. Some people love music. Sometimes when they're stressed, it's like throwback to the 90s and they just listen and they feel good about it. Figure out your meaningful activities. And then, almost like a prescription, make sure that you're including them in your weekly schedule. A few more long-term coping strategies. Ethel mentioned unhelpful thinking patterns. Sometimes we catastrophize, and that's when something small happens. We go to the worst possible scenario. Actually, let me pause talking. If you know you're like that, if you're brave enough, say it in the chat. Just say, that's me. I just think the worst case scenario. If you're shy, it's okay. You don't have to. But if you're someone who has unhelpful thinking patterns, you think the worst, or another unhelpful thinking pattern is you blame, right? You blame yourself. You feel guilty all the time. Oh, why did I do it? Recognize that it's not helpful. It's not about whether it's true or not true. It's about whether it's actually helping you. Okay, so you blame yourself for it. How is that helpful? Is there something you can change? If so, change it. And not the guilt. It's not helping us. Or if you're thinking extreme, I once met someone who said, Dr. Christine, this glass sitting on the table, you just see a glass of water. Me, I see the glass is near the edge of the table. It can crash and fall. It can shatter. The glass will go everywhere. Some of it will go into your eyes. Then you'll be blind. Then you can't work again. And then that's it, your career is over. All from the glass sitting on the table. So recognize if your thinking patterns are unhelpful and start to manage and change them. That's by saying to yourself, this is my mind. How realistic is this? That I'm thinking this worst possible scenario can happen. Sometimes, if you have a good friend, you can bat with them. You can talk to them and say, Charlie, my mind is doing the things again. Oh, please help me to balance. Be your own lawyer in your mind. There's also mindfulness. So mindfulness is this idea of just being fully aware of what's happening and reacting, not responding. So it's a deliberate approach. You wake up in the morning and you say, today, I'm going to respond. There are some things I won't be able to control. I can't control if they happen, but I can control how I respond to it. Some things will annoy me. Some things will anger me, but I still have control of how I react. So to be mindful, you have to be ready though. It can catch you unawares. So you wake up in the morning or you're about to step through the door at work, or you're about to come back into the home. For some of us, the stress may be at home. You're about to come back into your house and deep breath. I might be stressed. I'm going to be deliberate, intentional, respond, not react. And then quickly, I'll go through the last 3 for the long term. Physical activity. It's such a good mood booster. It releases endorphins into our bloodstream. And it's also healthy. Recently, I learned that physical activity can add 20 years onto our lives. I was like, please, I have to start exercising again. I've fallen off. But regular physical activity, walking, swimming, stretches, all of those are good for stress. Sleep. Some people don't realize how much sleep we need. I remember once at a workshop, I mentioned that we need 8 hours of sleep. And people were surprised. Some said they sleep 4 hours. And some said it proudly. Oh, me, I only need 4 hours of sleep. Please, your body needs the sleep. And you'll notice it when you're unwell, right? When you're unwell, you sleep, your body restores itself. Sometimes we are so stressed and it's fatigue. We need consistent sleep hygiene. But in order to get your circadian rhythms to be balanced, in order to get your body to feel sleepy at a certain time, there has to be a routine. There has to be a sameness. If you know you want to sleep around 10, then you start winding down around 9. It's quiet, it's dim lights. You put the phone away about 20 minutes, 30 minutes before. You get yourself into a calm state of mind before you sleep. For some of us, the stress comes during sleep time too, right? That's when all the problems come to your head, when it's quiet. So you can have a journal. It doesn't mean you jump out of bed and address it or send that email immediately or call that person. Make a note, because your mind does need to rest. And then finally, for long term, assertiveness and boundary setting. We have to learn to say no. And maybe we're too nice. A lot of us, we're raised to be people pleasers. We're raised to say, oh, yes, of course, I'll do it. If you think about our upbringing in Ghana, especially, that behavior is reinforced. You know, if you're the good girl or the good boy in class, you do exactly as you're told, and they say, oh, well done. So we grow up into adults, and it's all yes, yes, yes. And we're afraid to say, I'm sorry, but it's not possible. I won't be able to do it. We have to learn to assert ourselves. We can do it in our own way, in our own gentle way, but saying no is important. Otherwise, what happens is you say yes to everything and then you fall sick and you can't do it anyway. Okay, so now moving on to the short-term coping strategies. So the first one, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about deep breathing. And the idea behind deep breathing is that when our body goes into stress mode, or that fight or flight mode because it thinks there's danger, it triggers what they call the sympathetic nervous system, which makes our heart beat fast, and there's adrenaline going through your blood and cortisol. And breathing, the research found that if we just take deep breaths, imagine you're at some spa or at some beach in the midst of all the stress. What happens is your brain says, oh, we're doing the relaxing breathing. Okay, let's reduce the stress hormones. Let's reduce the adrenaline. Because it's a system, right? It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system and it helps to calm your body. Now, it's not easy to learn to do deep breathing on your own. But luckily for us, there's so much technology that is helpful. Let me see if this video will play. So something like this, it's a very simple, it's just a circle going in and out. But if you follow that circle, try to breathe in as the circle, oh, I have to replay. Breathe in as the circle expands. Let's see if it works. And then breathe out as the circle diminishes. And this is just something I found online. There's so many of them. Go to YouTube and just Google breathing exercises or relaxation and pick the one that you like. If you do it consistently, with deep breathing exercises, don't do it only when you're stressed. Do it consistently in the evening, ideally, or in the morning while you're lying down. You put one hand on your chest, one hand in your tummy. Take a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. And do it, even if it's for just 3 minutes. It becomes a habit. And when you are stressed and you're able to take that deep breath, your brain says, oh, I remember this. This is the thing that we do when we're stressed. And then it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So deep breathing helps. But deep breathing doesn't work for everybody. There are some of you who you become very tense when you're stressed. You realize that your muscles are so tense. And I've tried sometimes to do deep breathing with people who they need to let the energy out, right? It's like the tension is there, it needs to come out. And it backfires if you do deep breathing. So you need to know yourself. You need to know if you're a breathing person or if you need to let the tension out. Now, progressive muscle relaxation is where you tense and relax different parts of your body. So you start at your feet. You notice, and let's try it, maybe just for 3 minutes. Notice if there's any tension in your feet right now, right? And then just try to place your feet on something so that it's resting on the floor, maybe on a chair, so that there's no tension in it. Then slowly squeeze your toes, curl your toes so that it's tense. And then relax, uncurl your toes and just release it. And allow all the muscles in your feet to relax. So you do that with your feet. Then you move up to your thighs and your calves. Again, you notice if there's tension. You deliberately tense those muscles. And then you relax those muscles. Allow them to rest. So that the chair or whatever, if you're sitting on your bed, that's fine. That furniture is doing all the work and your legs can rest. And you do it with your back. You do it with your shoulders. You do it with your face. We hold so much tension in our face and our expressions. By the time you finish your whole body, all your muscles are relaxing. And again, with this, there's videos on YouTube that you can use as guided scripts to relax your full body. All right, a few more short-term coping strategies. Grounding techniques. Now, grounding techniques are especially helpful for high distress. So sometimes in life, we get to this point where we are just, it's almost as if it's almost like an out-of-body experience, and we can't think, we can't move, we don't know what to do. We can't feel, we are numb. Now, a grounding technique is something like splashing cold water on your face. I know one client who keeps ice in the fridge, and they'll put that ice on their face and they'll just rub it on their face to just bring them back to reality, because the stress has taken them somewhere far. So grounding techniques help you come back to the present moment and know that, look, life is real. There is the now. Let me just take it one moment at a time. Some people prefer to do this with aromatherapy. Maybe they have lavender or something nice smelling, and they can smell it, and it reminds them of something positive, and it brings them back to the present moment. Sometimes we need a mental timeout. You have full permission to take a timeout. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes in the middle of an argument where you are stressed, you are not seeing top, you're arguing with your partner or your child or your parent, and you're so upset. Take a mental timeout. Just step away from the stressor. Sometimes it's more than 5 minutes. For some of us, you may have to consider taking some time off work. Maybe the stress has gotten so high, you're resenting everybody around you and everything you do. Consider, is it possible to take a day or two off work? Is it possible to delegate and ask somebody to cover it for you? Because that time away can make a world of difference so that you come back refreshed. There's also positive visualization or imagery. So picturing the calm place. Our mind is a powerful thing. The same way it can stress us out, we can literally tell our mind to think to the positive, to think of to that future where it's all done. The thing that you've been working so hard towards, maybe it's your degree, maybe it's some promotion. You visualize that it's actually happened. You see the details. If you, depending on your religion, you pray it into existence, but you spend time really visualizing it, imagining it, seeing what it will look like. And it gives you a sense of purpose to go back to doing the work that you have to do. And I think this is my last slide for the coping strategies. There's self-talk or affirmations. There's this video that it went viral some time ago, and I saw it again today as I was prepping for this. Is this little girl standing in front of the mirror, and she's just big upping herself. And she's like, I am awesome. I am capable. Please, let's do it for ourselves. As adults, nobody is coming to do it for you. So look in the mirror and self-affirm. if you want to take a spiritual aspect to it too, look at something bigger than you, right? And find peace in that it's not all up to you. You don't have to do it all, but God can do it for you. But reminding yourself, whether it's just the phrase or the verse, can make significant difference in reducing your panic. I've talked about music. Journaling helps a lot of people. So if it's something that you haven't tried and you're looking for a stress management strategy, it might be something that you consider a worry journal or a prayer journal where you write down your worries because it reduces them. When it's in your head, it's insurmountable. It's this huge thing. When you write it down, you think, oh, this thing fits on a page or 3 lines. It makes it manageable. And then you can start to unravel the issues, maybe even start to problem solve on the paper. But journaling can be really helpful. And then finally, behavioral activation. So doing something that helps shift your mood. Now, behavioral activation, oftentimes we don't feel like doing anything when we're stressed or we're feeling really tired and really low. Some people will say, oh, I just go and sleep. Sleeping is okay sometimes, but it's not the healthiest of coping mechanisms. Sometimes it's better to maybe call up somebody that you know can help you do it, but actively do something. Maybe you go for a walk. When was the last time you enjoyed the scenery, right? The weather is nice in Ghana. Sometimes we forget to appreciate the sunshine and the green. Or when was the last time that you just deliberately listened to music and danced by yourself with nobody around? So behavioral activation is doing something that it might feel silly, but it has the effect of triggering the positive mood, the endorphins, the dopamine, the pleasure hormones to get your stress levels down. So these are all deliberate things that you can do both long-term and short-term to help your stress levels reduce. All of that being said, there are some aspects of stress. When your stress has been going on for a long time, more than 2 weeks, it's affecting work, it's affecting family, it's affecting relationships, and you feel like you just can't get out of it. Please, please seek help. You don't have to do it alone. There are psychologists available. And if you are not ready to start there, you can always start with a trusted friend. Talk to somebody. So at this point, I'll end. A question for the audience is, which of these do you think you will try? Or maybe which one have you been doing already, and which one do you think you'll want to try moving forward? And at this point, I'll hand over to Ida for Q&A.
Whoa, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, both Ethel and Dr. Pierre. We are grateful. Okay. My boss has a hand up. Dr. Marvel. Hey, I haven't even started calling. Okay, someone has added up. Okay, please, before you start asking all these questions, because sometimes when we get to ask the questions, we tend to forget that we have a poll that we need to fill. You need to help us also to be able to help you. So we're going to launch our post-webinar poll now as we interact with you. So as the poll is ongoing and you are filling for us, then they get to ask. By the way, I see messages in the chat box. Some are asking if they could get access to the slides and all that. Well, you can have access to the whole thing. So for those who missed, the recording is on our Parents Roundtable YouTube link or page. We've shared the link. We would reshare. It's been sent again. Please have access to it. You can rewatch, you can watch our previous webinars that we've had, both for the Parents Roundtable and the public lecture. You have everything, things dating from times passed. So we are launching our end of poll. We're going to launch again for you to have a look at it. Godi, can you help me out with that? Okay, has it been launched? Godi, has it been launched, please?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, good. So then, since it's been launched, I'm gonna go on. Please start filling the poll for us. Dr. Mabel, please, you can unmute and talk. Then we'll go on to Gracious, then Faustina. For those who would not like to talk, please, you can write all your comments in the chat box. So, Doc, please go on.
Thank you very much, Ida. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please. You're audible.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Pierre and FL, for an excellent presentation. And I always say that the psychologists, I think they choose their voices before they go to school because their voice is very soothing. When they were talking, I was like, oh, I want to sleep. Oh. Very relaxing. Thank you very much. So my question is about catastrophizing. Catastrophizing. So if you have a child who does that, I've learned that you're supposed to validate their feelings first. The the solution you talked about was to rationalize the thought, to let them know that yes, even though the glass, you're thinking, your mind is telling you the glass is going to fall. Really, is it going to fall? Do you think? So how do you juxtapose validating their feelings and not rubbishing it to their rationalizing and helping them?
Thank you. I can start, and then if Ethel wants to add on.
Okay.
So validating the feeling is different from rationalizing the thought. And one of the things we teach children in therapy is to separate the feeling from the thoughts. It's really important because you can validate someone's feeling and say, it sounds like you feel really scared. I really empathize with you. That must be so hard. You validated the feeling. And then you say, what are the chances that that glass could fall? 100%, 50%, 10%. With little children, we actually draw it. You know, the thoughts, the little cloud thing. And sometimes I'll be their secretary and I'll write everything for them. I'll draw it for them. But we think of all the possible thoughts. And sometimes just putting it on paper can make you help them realize just how extreme it is, you know? And their imaginations are wild. I've had a child say, oh, they were so afraid they were going to sink into the ground. They saw some cartoon and now it's like, I'm going to sink into this ground. I just feel it. And you write all the thoughts, the ground will open up, it will turn into clay. By the time you finish, it's like you've done a movie and you're like, wow, your imagination is amazing. Has it happened before? No. Have you seen somebody like sink next to you before? No. So you start to kind of look for evidence that it could happen. In the end, you're not arguing with them so much as you're with a little bit of humor, trying to coax them into seeing that at the very best is 50-50, not 100% guaranteed that it will happen. So short answer is validate the fear, right? That soft feeling of fear, anxiety, empathize. But then when you're talking or focusing on the thoughts, that one, you're not validating the thought. You're rationalizing, and you're coaxing, and you're putting it to them to be a detective or a lawyer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Makes sense.
Welcome.
Okay, Ethel, would you like to add something before we move on to the next person?
Oh, I think that Doc has said it all, honestly. So just like she said, I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything new, but it's more of I recognize how you're feeling, or maybe what maybe you are thinking, in regards to. But at the same time, it's like you're guiding the child to see things from a different perspective. So you don't tell them necessarily, but you work with them through it. So they get to that point and then they realize it, that okay. So the chances of that happening might be maybe less than what they were actually thinking that it would be. Because our thoughts, our feelings, and actions are really connected. And it's important then to see how you can break any unhelpful thoughts right from the thought region before it even gets to emotions as well. So by doing that, then you're teaching the child to learn to cope. And then also for other future events or experiences, they'll know how they can then challenge these unhelpful thoughts. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so Gracious, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Thank you. I must say, impressive. I will, as part of the coping strategies, I will also say attest to journaling. Journaling is something that really works for me. Usually when I'm stressed and I'm able to put whatever thing that is stressing me on paper, it gives me some clarity and it really clears my mind. But I also want to add that sometimes, these days we have mobile phones. Sometimes when you are so stressed, you can record yourself, whatever thing, whatever challenge that you are going through, you feel like not talking to someone. You can just put your phone on and then say whatever thing that is on your heart, whatever thing that is bothering you, say it on your phone. And then after that, when you can just take some break and then come back and play it to yourself. You see, there is a lot of healing in that. I think that is, so by the time you listen to yourself, sometimes in the process of listening to yourself, you really begin to be clear about your problems, whatever thing that is giving you that, because it's like you are now listening to yourself after. So speaking from your heart or pouring your heart has solves part of the problem, and then coming back to listen to what was really, bothering you, also start giving you some clarity about how to go about solving. So it has also worked for me. I mean, like the audio thing, recording yourself, and then what do you call it? Listening to yourself, what your problem is, and then trying to find a solution. So that's something I wanted to. Now, I'm curious. I also want to know. You see, pregnancy is one of the things that also causes a lot of stress. I know when women are pregnant, usually some have eating problems with eating, cannot sleep, and so many other. So I was thinking, I didn't hear anything about pregnancy-related stress and then all that. So it's something that I also wanted to contribute. Now, my question, what do you think about some medicine that if someone tries to switch to a particular medicine to help him or her to relieve stress? What do you think about that? Is it a good thing or because I know there are some people who get stressed, become anxious and all that, and then there are some medicine. I don't want to mention names here. There are some medicine that they quickly go to the pharmacy and try to get to see if they can get some. So what do you think about that? That is my first question. And then the second one also has to do, is there some sort of WhatsApp group that people who, because time, as we live, things come out. And if you have like a support group that you have a challenge, you can get people, professionals like you who can really speak to your challenge and all that. I think it helps. So I just want to know if there's sort of a group like that so that maybe after this meeting, you can consider joining and all that. So if issues come up, you can get support and get someone to. And then my final question, These days, it's common to hear on the various campuses people who are having relationship problems and then become suicidal. So I want to know, aside from workshops like this or online meetings like this, have you also thought about some of the ways that we can reach out to some of these youth on the campuses and all that, who are doing all manner of things, and some of them don't have the coping strategy, so they end up doing what we all hate. So this is just a few of few kind of things.
Okay, thank you first of all for sharing your experience with us. And I am grateful that you've shared that experience to help others also, and even adding up the bit of technology where we can get to use our phones to do the recordings. That's a great one. I would let the psychologists deal with their questions. And concerning the part of having a group, yes, we have our community page, and well, we have diverse pages, and these pages are there to help not just the kids, but the parents who also care for the kids. In times past, our focus was mainly on our children, our children, our children. But as you realize, for this year, we are looking at a combination, both the parents and you, both the kids, sorry, and you as the caregivers. We're looking at both of you. So we help everyone. So yes, our community page will be posted, so you can join. When you join our parents roundtable community, you can go into other areas or join other platforms that we have in our community. Then I come to the psychologists for them to decide. Please, the questions of pregnancy related stress, the other ones also, medication. Who would like to set the ball rolling? Yay, Mrs. Obintrebe would.
Right. So honestly, I was struggling to hear some parts of it. I don't know whether it was just me or it was the same for others. So I had snippets of some of it. So I would attempt to answer. There was one on medication.
Yes.
Whether or not, I think you were asking for advice on whether or not it's good to take medication. What I would say about medication, I think it was during the conversation, I think there was a slide in there that talked about coping strategies where some individuals might abuse legal or illegal substances. And that's because I think that for the most part, when individuals don't realize that this is actually a stressful situation that actually requires support, whether it's speaking or engaging with a psychologist, would have some individuals that might probably go to the hospitals, run so many tests, and wouldn't see anything. So they'll come back and tell you, I've done everything, I've been everywhere. And then we tend to spiritualize. Now, whilst we are spiritualizing, we might also, maybe because we are talking with other people, then they can recommend, oh, I tried this one, it was very good. It would help you to sleep because now you are looking only at the symptom, but not the root cause. So
Yeah.
usually what I'd encourage you to do is do your checks, and when there's nothing in terms of the medical, please consider the psychological as well. Before even medication sometimes can be given. I think that if you're probably to see a professional, that's a psychologist, a counselor, they will take you through some helpful strategies, whether it's to build resilience, whether it's more of solutions focused, just to see how you can deal with your difficulties, just so you can resolve them the better. Now, it does not mean that medication is not important. If medication is required, even the professional would recommend who you should see. That is a practitioner that prescribes medication, because we don't prescribe medication, but we can have a medical professional who would then prescribe medication in addition to therapy, because medication can deal with some of the symptoms you're experiencing. Maybe it's a lack of sleep, so it will help you sleep. But if the root cause is financial, the medication will not bring money. It will not create money. So it means that you have to look at some other strategies. Maybe that individual can consider. If you are a yes man and you don't know how to say no, medication will not help. They will still be calling. So what do? It means we have to look at you building some resilience and see how you can say no in 1,001 ways. So these are some of the things I would encourage you to do. And maybe I'll leave the last one for Dr. Pierre.
Okay, so yeah, before you come in, please, our poll is still currently on. For those who haven't been able to fill it, kindly help us get our data, and in the next minute or two, it will be ended. So thank you. Dr. Pierre, please go on.
Okay. Thank you, Ethel. Thank you, Ida. When she said she'll leave the last one, I wasn't even sure which one. The
Okay.
speaker made so many good points too, and I wanted to thank him for his idea about the audio message. And to add to that, sometimes people, when they're in a good mood, will leave an audio message for when they're stressed. So for clients who I know who get stressed often, sometimes when they're having a good week, I say, leave yourself a message. You know, things are going to be okay. It's not always so bad. Something that you yourself, you know, when you hear it, you feel motivated. And then you listen to it when the stress comes. In terms of the support groups that he asked about, I know Mission has the parent support groups, and there are quite a few online support groups, to be honest. But you do have to be careful about the ones that you join. There's some where you're just reading. So like on Reddit, sometimes there are ADHD groups, there are anxiety or stressed mothers groups or stressed fathers. And sometimes it's nice to just see the stories of other people going through similar things. In terms of suicide prevention lines, I've posted one in the chat. I'm on a platform for the Mental Health Authority, and they have a number that's available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'll post that as well. Pantang has a 24/7 number, and then this National Suicide Prevention Line is Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So there are resources available. For the pregnant women, you are right, they go through a lot, but there's nothing new under the sun. The strategies are the same. The only thing I'll add is for them to calm down and rest. Oftentimes, and I was a culprit myself, when we become pregnant, we feel like, hey, nothing changes. We are still going full nyanya. And sometimes it takes a supportive partner or friend or sister or brother to encourage us to calm down. So to the women out there, if you're pregnant, your body is doing a lot, right? Your body is working very hard. So even if your mind says, I can go, you do need to slow down. There are some things that feel out of your control. There's discomfort, there's hormonal changes. With pregnancy, you know that it's leading somewhere, right? There's a life in you. And God willing, there'll be a blessing and a glorious celebration in 9 months. So it helps to look forward to that and stay calm and stay on the goal. So that's it for the pregnancy. I think we covered all the questions.
I think so. Looks like I've kept Faustina for too long, and there
Mm.
are two other questions in our chat box. Faustina, could you ask your question? Then I would add one from the chat box, please.
Oh, okay, please. It's a question and a contribution together. So, Doc mentioned relaxation, and I think when she was saying it, I was remembering myself as a child, and I used to do it. I mean, when especially in the evening and I'm working, I'll put my feet down and I'll press it very hard. And I think there was a myth surrounding it. So I don't know if it's actually true or it's not, because I was told when you do that, you're a witch and that you are eating your children. So when my mommy told me that over and over, I ended up stopping. So I think my contribution too will be that sometimes as parents, we have to be cautious of what we tell our children, because sometimes they are dealing with things and their body is finding its own way of relaxing them unaware. And I think the other thing would be, is it okay if you have a child who is an organized child, but sometimes would be careless? Is it a sign of something that you should be concerned about? Thank you.
Okay, so then I like how short your question was. It helps us get another one in there. So the other question is that how do you react and not respond in dealing with stress? How do we react and not respond in dealing with stress? The other question is longer. So when we are done with these two, then I go on. So please, for those who would like to ask other questions, please go ahead. You can write them in the chat box. Okay.
It was really interesting. I didn't know there was a myth around being a witch for the muscle relaxation. So that one too has been taken away from us. Then just pray while you're doing it. There's no link to the spiritual world. Oh, sorry, my mind is there was a question. If your child is careless sometimes, is it okay? Especially if other times they are fine. Yes, please. It's very okay. Teach them, right? If they are careless, notice it, teach them. You can even reprimand them, but realize that children are not grown-ups. If they came out of us as fully grown, we would be very different. We would be like the birds. They'll be flying out of the nest immediately. By all means, they will make mistakes. By all means, they will annoy us sometimes because their brains are literally not fully developed yet. So just notice it and teach them. And that's a perfect example of responding instead of reacting. One of the key ways to respond rather than react is to think ahead of your triggers. So know what your triggers are. Know that when this child does this thing, it just irks me, it annoys me, and I will shout at them. That way, it's almost like a movie playing in your mind. You see them doing it. You see yourself about to shout, and you say, no, I'm not a robot. I'm not just going to play this script over and over again. They do it, I shout, they cry, we go to our rooms, then they do it again. Respond. How exactly do we change this pattern? How do we change this cycle? It might be an actual question you ask them. Okay, so you're talking to me the same time your sister is talking. I'm feeling very stressed. I feel like shouting, but I'm not going to shout. What's the solution? So that's an example of responding, is thinking through your process and being an agent and not just following your reactions and your feelings.
Mrs. Obentreve, please, would you like to
Yes.
add?
Right. So if I'm to add to this, or just, jumping on what Dr. Pierre just said, it means that you, the individual, you need to know, that's first and foremost. And then also that gives you then the power, because knowing would mean that you have, the power then to determine how things will go. As parents, I think that, it can be hard, but we also need to sometimes also learn to take certain breaks as well. It's not everything you have to respond to, honestly speaking. The parent that was asking about the child that is organized sometimes and isn't. I'm also wondering whether maybe the parent is actually a perfectionist. That could also be. So maybe the child is actually being okay. Maybe another parent will be like, but this is fine. Because what is your meaning of disorganized? Maybe it's not that disorganized. Maybe the child's organization is even better, but it could also be how that parent is seeing it. And that's because we are different. Sometimes you have to learn to let certain things go. It's not everything we have to react to. It's not everything we have to pay attention to and then also, give or pay heed or mind to. Sometimes okay to let certain things go. Then again, there are also situations where some children feed off your reactions and it becomes a source of reinforcement, actually. They know you're going to scream and shout, and that alone is, what they want is music to their ears. So sometimes just look the other way, just so it does not encourage the behavior to kind of fester. And so, to the parent that asked, sometimes, it's okay to let certain things go. I think over time for me, if I'm using myself as an example, I think that mentally, I like to see things around me like organized. It kind of helps me mentally feel organized. It's a big thing when things are just all over. It doesn't help me mentally. But I had to learn the hard way when I had kids. The chair, sometimes, you have food droppings and what again? Maybe Cerelac. It's somebody has probably put a bit. I mean, you go and find certain things in certain places, like, what is all this? Sometimes I get into that space because, well, I'm not perfect either. But then I tend to remember and say, hey, it's okay. I mean, it's a phase, it will pass. And then maybe you can have your walls being white again. But at this point, they're going to color, I mean, we painted just a couple of months ago and it's back to probably even worse than what it was. What can I do? So rather than stressing, or this is something that can be avoidable, we have, like I said, stress is always going to be there, but we need to learn to even, what is important? Let's look for what is important at this point. Prioritize. Some things are not a big deal. We need to let them go. Thank you.
Thank you too, Ethel. So just as they've all said, Sophia adds up to it by saying that in terms of the medication, she's saying that yes, medications did help her a lot some years ago. And she was so stressed out. And in fact, it was that bad. After consulting her boy's psychiatrist at Mission Clinic, I agree with her that taking medications helps. And aside that, she was also seeing the psychologist. So just as Ethel mentioned earlier, they don't prescribe medication, but then they would refer you when the need arises. Okay, Angela asked the question. She says, some physical conditions appear to produce stress. For example, cervical spondylitis. Your mind is calm, but your body seems not to rest. What do you do with such conditions? Cervical spondylitis. The mind seems calm. However, the body is not resting. And I remember Dr. Pierre was mentioning that we need to sleep at least 8 hours. Some of us are guilty.
Yeah, and I think this question speaks to sometimes that feeling of not having control. Your mind is calm, you know what you want your body to do, and it's just not doing it. And we feel one of the core sources of stress is when we have a sense of helplessness or no control over the things that are happening to us. And with this condition and many chronic illnesses, it causes a lot of stress and sometimes even depression, because the people feel like they want to change it, but there's nothing they can do. What do you do with such conditions? Unfortunately, there's no magic answer. It's all the things that we stated. So can you live your life in accordance with your values in the direction that you want, despite and with the illness? It won't be the ideal, it won't be the dream that you had or the person had. But once you set your values, then it's a day-to-day living towards it. And then sometimes finding comfort, right? Either with, like somebody mentioned, support groups, other people who know the frustrations of going through this thing and can really relate to what you're experiencing, finding that support group online, or just comfort. So you can't rest your body, but maybe you can distract yourself from the pain or the restlessness or the discomfort with mental distractions, with music or with shows or with talking. So that's what I'll have to say on that.
Thank you. So if you need any help, if you would want to seek professional advice or professional help, I'm going to mention our specialist number, and then I would mention the PDA number also. So for the specialist, the Mission Health Specialist, the number is 050 475 9777. I'll take it again. 050 475 9777. This links you directly to our psychologist. It's their PA's number. So then she gets to do the bookings for you directly. You can call the number, and then whatever help that you need, it will be given to you. Aside that, the Mission Pediatrics number, well, it's a whole unit at Mission Clinic, but we have subdivisions. So our pedia number is 024 724 1447. I'll take it again. 024 724 1447. And the Vodafone number, Telecel. The Telecel number is 020 329 5292. Again, 020 329 5292. Thank you, Godi. So we have the numbers in the chat box. You can copy it, share it with anyone that you need to share it with who needs support, and then would help you out. So Prince says, how do you strategize stress when you are taxed with so much duties at work? I remember they mentioned one that I remember I can say. Please delegate where possible. That is what I can say. The rest, they will continue. Please. Thank you, Mrs. Obentrebe, for coming to my rescue.
So aside delegating, you can also prioritize what is important. Certain things can wait. Earlier we talked about work mode activated. You know, people treat us the way we want to be treated. And I think that sometimes for some individual, you know, they tend to steady you and will keep on piling until you say something. So if it's a phoning effect, as in maybe a trauma response, and so we can't say no, we'll need to build some resilience just so we can say no. At times, I know that it can also be a bit some way to say no, maybe to a boss, but you can prioritize. Honestly speaking, I don't recall or I can't remember anybody who would be able to tell me that they finished all their work by tomorrow. Some others would have piled on. Sometimes you have your plans even for the day, and then you get a request coming in and you have to pause everything. If that can happen and it doesn't end your life, I'd encourage you to do same. If you're not there tomorrow, you'd get a replacement almost immediately, you know, you're gone. So let's prioritize what is important. What can I do today? What can wait and do tomorrow? Just so that it reduces any pressure or burden mentally I would have that I haven't finished, I can't finish. I said I was going to finish everything today. Do what you can and give it your best when you're there. And then take that break, because if you're also probably overburdened, you can't also give your best to that same work. That is where you start making the mistakes or committing the blunders that you're even, you know, looking to avoid. And so you start probably getting or receiving some criticism for the same that you've put everything into. And that can also add on to, you know, all the other feelings or the negative emotions you might experience. So I would say in terms of strategizing, ask for help, learn to delegate, learn to say no in 1,001 ways. We'll think about it. This one, I'm not sure, but I'll get back to you. That's one of the ways to say no, you know, or also to prioritize. You can't do everything, but I'll do what I can. I'll give it my best today and we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethel. Okay, Dr. Pierre, do you want to add? Oh, it's okay.
No, she said everything.
Yay. Okay. So yes, our YouTube channel has just been posted in the chat box. It grants you access to everything Mission Pediatrics has so far, from our previous webinars to now. And what I'd like to add on to is, please, when you need help, do seek for help. Whether it's your friend that you can talk to, or be it a family relation, whoever you can talk to, please seek for that help. they've given us lots of strategies like journaling. Utilize it. Try it. You for now, let's start trying. But when it gets to a point where we need to seek professional help, do seek for professional help because we need each other. So please help us to be able to help you. All right. If no one has any comment, question, concern, I would like to say a very big thank you to everyone for making the time to be with us today. We appreciate you. We love you, and we are thankful that every fourth Sunday of the month, you do make the effort to take some time to be with us. Yes, next month we will be discussing the eye. Remember I mentioned mission is a whole unit, but we have subdivisions. So next month, the eye people, no, the optometrist will be with us to help us understand things. So please do make a date with us. And yes, for all those who are requesting for the slides, the whole video, the whole thing, everything, it's available on our YouTube channel. I would repeat, Parents Roundtable. It has everything in there. Our channel has just been reposted, so do make an effort. You can share with others, help others get to learn also, because our objective is to be able to help you, equip you, so that you can also equip others and support everyone. Thank you all for being a part. And yes, we are going north this year. We are going to work. We are still pleading that in whichever way or form that you would want to help us, be it financially, be it in kind, in any way and in any form, please, Godfred, can you share the contact numbers for our Go North initiative? Tell a friend to tell a friend that we are going north to go and assist others. We are going to WA this time round. We did Bolga for the past 2 years. So this time round, we've changed location to WA. Do help us be able to help others up north. Thank you for sharing that, Godfred. So that is the helpline, everything in going north. Tell a friend to tell a friend and help us support a worthy cause and help us to be able to help others. Enjoy your week. Have a good one. And thank you all for being a part of our show today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you, psychology team. I forgot to say this. I am sorry. Thank you guys so much. Last minute, yet you helped me out.
You all. Bye.
Bye, Miss Elizabeth.